Okay, so the recording is started. So guys, I'll be monitoring this chat window. So in case anybody has a question, you can post it over there. Otherwise, you can press *6 and unmute yourself, because I'll be muting all the participants while Sajal is presenting. So you can do either of it. I'll also be monitoring chat window in case you need to post it. Okay. So Sajal, you can go ahead. I'm handing over to you.
Thank you, Sid. Hello everyone, good evening. I'm Sajal Debnath, and this is a continuation, as Sid mentioned, this is a continuation of the earlier session that I had given on basics of PowerShell and PowerCLI. Today I'm the thing that I'm going to cover is variables. Again, we will revisit variables. Advanced functions. We have spoken about function, normal function in the earlier session. Here I'm going to cover advanced function, then writing help, how you can write help, working with
mute on,
working with REST API, and then question and answer at the end. I will try to make this session as interactive as possible. I will ask a couple of questions, and I would expect certain answers from the audience. Right? I think I have already covered this. I am a professional with 13 plus years of experience. I have been awarded the MIT Expert 2016-2017. I work as a solution architect, and I am the author of the book Mastering PowerCLI. Saying that, let's start with the variables. So when he said variables in PowerShell, I said that you don't need to specifically type it. That means it's weakly typed. So it will, if you say $10, $A equals to 10, that says that okay, this is an integer, and if I can store a string into it, I can store an array into it, or something else as well. It will try to adjust accordingly. So what happens when the example that I have given? What happens with this? Anyone can tell me that $A equals to 10, which is an integer, and then $B equals to 20, which is a character or string, you can say. So when I say $A plus $B, what will happen? And the other way around. Any answer? I'll try that, but any answer? Hey, come on, I expect answers today.
10 in the first 10A.
Okay. Say, so I have these two variables. Now, if I do $A plus $B, what would happen?
So it will show the 10 plus means not exactly 10, but not 20. It will show 10 only.
It is 30. So it actually understands that the first one was integer, and I'm trying to add something with this integer. So it converts $B, takes $B as an integer, and it adds up. So 10 plus 20 equals to 30. And for that matter, if I say get type, $B is your string, and $A equals to integer. This is pretty interesting, right? I have defined $A as an integer. By default, it takes it as integer, A as an integer, B as in string. But when I do A plus B, it actually converts it and gives me an integer value. So, any idea what this will do? Any idea?
It should be the same then, just like it will convert.
No. Here $B is the first thing. That's a string. So it will try to convert A into string. So now I have in PowerShell plus sign into strings, it gives us a concatenation. So it's just concatenating 20 plus 10. And if you give get type, you will get a type of string. So let's see this get type, see the string, but the other way around, if I say $A plus $B, you have integer. You got the idea, right? Thing is, this is good, but in your script, if you somehow say placement changes or something, that may result to a erroneous result. So you always can do, what you can do is forcefully typing it. So what I can do, I say int and say $B. So let's check $B again. $B is a string, right? So I can do this integer $D. It will treat it as an integer. Okay. I can check that. So you forcefully type it, because sometimes what happens, you write big scripts and it gets mixed up. So you should always keep this in mind. See, I'm forcefully typecasting it to be integer, though it's the original value is still a string. For this example, I'm just typecasting it. So you just need to remember that sometimes somewhere in scripts that may result to an error. So the weak types gives you a lot of flexibility, but at the same time, it may result with errors as well. Right? So this is a very interesting thing in PowerShell and this type of flexible scripting languages. Now, the way we define array, the two other major variables in PowerShell is array and hash tables or dictionaries. So the way we define arrays is say $A equals to say @ and this opening and first bracket, the opening and closing of the bracket. It would define it $A as an array. So this is an object system array, right? And I can simply write it this way. I can assign the values, say 2, 3, 4. This is an array. I can check whether it's an array or not. Yes, this is an array. And I can access the values with curly bracket and say 0. It starts with the position 0. Say I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0, 1. Like this. The interesting part is, say, if you have a long array and you want to access the last item, so you don't have to remember the length of that array. So, like for example, say a dot length gives me the length of that array. It should be 4. So I have 4 elements in that array. So the way I can access the last element is say $A and 4. I get the last element. Oh, sorry, 3. Actually, it starts with 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3 gives me the last one. Instead of doing that, more interesting way of doing is this -1. -1 is the last element. So it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes till the length of length -1. And if I want to access from the end or the other side, so then it's -1. I can simply search by -2, -3. It's like this. So that's one interesting way of getting this. Where this actually helps, I'll tell you. Say if I have a say actual path, say C program files, users, administrator, something like that, and you are splitting that path with say //. So each and storing it in an array. So each element of an array stores a directory name, structure, and the last one say probably a file or directory something, and you want to get the last item. So you can simply get it like this. So this is where you would access an array. And the last item that is there is hash table. So hash tables, the way we would define the hash tables is simply by this $A let's just copy paste this to save time. Say 1. So hash tables work in a key value pair. I give it a key and I get the value. So say this is how we would define, say, @ and the curly braces, opening and closing of the curly braces will give you a hash table, and you mention the keys and the values with equals, and they are separated by colon. So in array, the elements are separated by a comma. In hash tables, the elements are separated by colon. Right, and the way we will access is like you can access all the keys by a keys. Item and then values. Save for all the values you can get it this, and the way you can access individual items is, say, 1. You give the key name, you get the value, right? Similarly, say the second one was 2. So you give the key name, you get the corresponding value. Question is, say, where would you use these hash tables and where it actually helps? Say, as an example, I want to say for a letter, so for a word letter, L-E-T-T, here, I want to find out how many times that particular letter occurs in that particular word. What I can do, I will read that array from each and every item and then store it in a hash table. Advantage of hash tables is the items that are there in the hash table, they are not in a sorted manner. So it will not go like in a linked list or array. You will have to get a particular value from middle. You will have to know the exact position where it is. So you will have to actually shift through the entire array or the list. But in hash table, if you know the key value, if you know the key of the hash, so you just simply give that and you get the value. You don't have to search through it. So it's in runtime, it will give you 1. That's the efficiency that you will get out of hash table. So typically in those areas where you have a large number of keys and in the values, for example, month that you are setting, say January equals 1, February equals 2, something like that, and you want to search by that, you just simply get the result. You don't have to sort through the entire array. That's the advantage of hash tables, right? And sometimes you will have to define new variables, new object. You can, since it's an object-oriented programming language, scripting language, or programming language for that matter, so you will have to define object. The way you will do it is new variable, and give the variable a name, and you can work with that. I have taken an example which is pretty interesting in the sense I am creating a new variable, giving it a name max. The value is 256. Note the option. I'm making it as read-only. Right? I can use the option as private, public, so that it would be throughout the script. It can go beyond. It can be within that scope. I'm making it read only. Right? So now, if I say $max, I see the value is 256. Right? What happens if I try to change the value again? Say 104. It will throw me an error because I made this variable as read only. You cannot change this variable, right? Had I changed it as say I just removed this read only. Okay, it already exists. Let's take another one. It's a max 1. Right? It's a normal variable, max 1. You see the variable. Let's change the variable value to say 1024 now. Okay. I cannot create a new variable. It's already there variable. So set variable. I will just make a small. Right. So set variable. I could change the value, right? So if I check max 1 now, it's 1024. If I try to set the value Okay, set variable, if I try to do that for max, it still throws me an error because it's a read only, right? So that is the difference between the normal variable and the read-only variable. So where you will use read-only variable, say if throughout your script or throughout your program, you want to keep one variable as standard, global variable, but you cannot modify the variable. You will have to refer it in multiple places. So you can define a new variable as read-only, and you should work for it. Now, another example. Now, I wanted to create a new object. Say, first, let me define a new object dictionary with this certain values. Say $A. Say I have three fields: name, age, and sex. Right? That's the dictionary hash table that I have defined. Now I am creating a new object B, which will have it's a type of PS object, PowerShell object, and the properties that it is going to have is $A, right? So now $B, and you get the get member, you'll be able to see that this is a type of PS object, custom object. I have created a custom object, and the properties that it has is age, name, and sex. These are three properties that I have created, in which age is integer, name is string, and the sex is also string. So that's how I create a new object in PowerShell, and typically when we work with object-oriented scripting or programming, we will have to create a new object. Now, say let's set some values for them. Okay. And now if I see $P, I can see that the variable is set. And if I say $B get member now, still it would show me the same members. And the values are set here. So that's how you create a new variable or new object in PowerShell. Clear? Any questions so far? Okay. So now we will talk about advanced functions. In the first section, we covered functions, normal functions. In this section, I'm going to cover advanced function. Now, typically, it's a advanced function is a function, but with advanced functionality. It gives you functionality like you get from a commandlet. So typically a commandlet is written by C# or .NET through which you write a commandlet. But advanced functions are functions which will give you the exact same functionalities, so similar functionalities that are commandlet, but you just write it in a simple function manner. You don't have to go ahead and actually do it in that way. So that is the way of writing advanced function, the advantages of that. Question is whether you should always do this or not. Typically, if it's a small function, say a couple of lines, 5 lines, 10 lines, or something which you are not going to utilize pretty often, I would say stick to the normal function. But if you are going to redistribute your function, say many other people are going to use it, or you are going to utilize it in many multiple areas, say you want to use it as a module, so you want to write a PowerShell module, so you will definitely use advanced functions there, right? So that is the distinction. If it's simple, typically you would like to keep it as simple as possible. So if it's very small and doesn't do much, then go for a small normal function. If it's a big one with a lot of capabilities, then you need to go ahead and you are going to distribute the piece of code or that particular function, then better go ahead with advanced function. So the way it's structured is typically it starts with comment-based help. The help portion I will cover later on, but it starts with function and the function name, and then the second the bracket start. Remember in the normal function or the simple function, let's see that simple function. I'm just giving the function and the variables are defined here, but in this advanced function, say if I just try to run this, say get VRD detail, and you say, so it just works like this way. I give the parameter name directly here, and I do something. That is how the simple function works. In advanced function, the first thing that I do is I don't mention any parameter there. It's just an empty bracket there, and then the first thing that I do is commandlet binding. That particular word mentions that, or says that this is an advanced function that I'm writing, or commandlet binding and then parameter. These two things. But say if your function does not take any input, it just works, then you probably omit parameter. Then simple commandlet binding, that particular word will mention that will notify that there is an advanced function that I'm writing. Right? So you use both of them together or individually. The typical function is commandlet binding and then output type or the parameter, and define the parameters here. Then notice three different areas: begin, process, and end. The advantage of this, the begin will run only once, as well as the end portion. So before your function runs for the first time, begin will run only once, and then process for each and every object, it would run each and every time, and then at the exit time, it would run the end portion once. So you should typically use it for initialization and cleanup purpose. Say for example, you want to get say a list of all the hosts from the vCenter server, do some work on them or do some advanced work. So I would mention connect VI server, which will connect me to the vCenter server into the begin portion. So that because only once I need to be connected to the vCenter server. So I will put connect VI server in the begin section, so that when the script will execute or the function will execute, the first time it will connect to the VI server, and in the end portion, I will say disconnect VI server. So what that would do, when the script will finish, it will exit, it will disconnect the VI server. So I'm initializing and then cleaning up. So this is the purpose of begin, process, and end. Though they are not mandatory that you will have to write something in begin, have to write something in your end, but that's the structure. That is how you can utilize the thing. That is how to structure that function, right? Now coming back to commandlet binding, you have confirm impact. The options are confirm impact, default parameter, set name, help URI, support paging, supports should process, and positional binding. These are the options that can go ahead with commandlet binding, that particular function, particular parameter. So confirm impact is like you say confirm or what if. If you mention that, then those functionalities will be supported in this function. Default parameter set name, say it would let you make a default value that if you do not provide any input, say your function expects certain values and you do not provide any value. So then you can set the default values of that particular parameter. You can set it so that it will not fail. Help URI, obviously, to external helps that you can take. And there's something positional binding. So positional binding is like you will have to define that, okay, if I'm expecting after VI server, say connect to VI server, the first thing that I'm expecting the server name, there I cannot give the username. It's binded to that particular position. The position 0 is for a position, 1 is for that server name only. I can do that. Similarly, the parameter portion, it goes for define a parameter, say mention parameter, and then attribute value, and then variable type. Typically, the attribute is like mandatory, position, alias, value from pipeline. Say for mandatory, if you mention a parameter as mandatory, then that parameter is mandatory for you. We will have to give that parameter, otherwise it will not work. Like for example, here the string username, I have said that its position is 1, and VRA server, say VRA name, that is position is 0. So notice that the position or the place of defining the parameter doesn't matter. I have defined username first, which should come later, and the other way around. So if I try to execute this function, For example, let's try to do this, right? So get VRE info and say the parameter name is username, right? So the beautiful part is I say username as well, and the second thing is VRA name, VRA. So note that though I have mentioned VRA at the end, and I have mentioned the username first, but while printing, it's taking it the other way around. The way I have defined it, I have given the username. Now let's try to change the position a bit. So we will define VRA first, and then username. It doesn't matter the way I give the position, because I have not binded the positions, right? I just defined that position 0 is VRA, and the other thing is typically the way you name the variables, you can simply give the variable names, mention the variable names here, or you can simply omit them as well. There is no binding that you will have to give the variable name. It will simply take it as it is, right? The other thing is the alias portion. That is pretty interesting. What it does is, for example, I say username, and then the variable name is VRA name. Ideally, it should be known as VRA name, but instead, I can define it as VRA or VRA server. It still works because the alias is I have set is it can be VRA, VRA server, or VRA name, any one of them. So that's the function of parameter name. That's the typical attribute that you will use. Value from pipeline is one, where if you want to take some input from pipeline and use it into your function, then you will have to set, or then you will have to set the parameter as value from pipeline. Otherwise, the parameter value cannot be taken from pipeline. It will not accept. It will give you an error. But if you want that particular value to come from pipeline, then you will have to set this value. There. A lot more details about these are available into this particular link. You can go ahead and check those details from there. I'm not going to cover all of them because a lot more values are there, are a lot more things that you can do with parameters, right? The second portion that I wanted to cover is help files. So you remember the function when I said defined function comment-based help, and commandlet binding had an option of help URI, where I can mention external help file, XML-based help file. Inside my function, I can define my own help as well. Let's see this. Let's just do this. So this get VRA info, it's a simple function that I had written. It's a simple function, nothing, no help, nothing is written for that. But what if when I say get help, and say get VRA detail or info, any one of them, it shows me the structure of that particular, though there is no help written, but still it shows me the name, the syntax, the aliases, and the remarks. So if I go for VRA info, it similarly shows me the information. So what if I want to write my own help file so that anyone who wants to utilize my function, I can do that. So the way you would write is the help file. And what if, let's do this. If I say full, because till now I said this simple thing, full will try to give you the full details, like for example, this is my VRA info parameters. Parameters are username, it is string, whether it's required, the position is 1, accept pipeline input false. It tells you all the details of the function, the variables, what it is expecting, what it is not. It details you all that thing, right? So where typically you will use help, writing advanced function, you're writing a script, you can write a help portion for your script as well, or you are writing a script module, Typically, these are the areas where you would write your own help so that whoever uses it, without going through your code, they can simply type get help and the function name or the script name or the module name, and then can get the details help. You remember in the first session, I have covered that how you can get help on the particular thing, particular commandlet. The similar way they would be able to get the help. The syntax for that is you can either individually comment it out with hash. So each and every line you just started with hash, 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 and the details was help, or you start with this and end with this, the same sign, and in between you write your own help file. Right? The thing is the help. Remember that the help content and help keyword, you will have to keep in mind the keyword starts with dot, and there are certain keywords that you can use in a help file. You can go beyond that. So there are certain rules. I'm going to cover few of them, not all of them. The first rule is you can write the entire help portion with successive comment lines like hash, or you can give it in a comment block as I mentioned. So the second thing is all the lines in comment-based help topic, it must be contiguous, right? So if help topic follows the normal comment, which is not part of the topic, then there must be at least one blank line between. Right? Keywords define each section. Which section will come under which one particular section when you use get help are defined by the keyword, and it must start with a dot. The keyword can appear in any order doesn't matter, and it's not case sensitive, right? The most important fact is if you misspell any of the keywords, entire block may be ignored. Right, so you will have to keep that in your mind that no spelling mistakes in the keyword portion, and entire comment block must have at least one keyword, right? And then there are several other rules for placement where you can actually place the comment. Say if it's a script, you can place it at the beginning or at the end. If it's a function, you can place it at the beginning, before the function, inside the function, at the beginning or at the end of the function. But there are certain rules like how many spaces should be there, blank line should be there. Then only it will be considered for a help. It's also defined, so you can go ahead and check that. The typical common keywords are synopsis, description, parameter, example, input, output, notes, and external help. External help is the external help file, XML file. You can write it as an external help file. So let's see an example. So we have this advanced function written where the function is create VM. So we have started with the help function, the help portion. The keyword is synopsis, then description, then parameter. I'm saying this is the parameter, and see for each and every parameter I'm mentioning parameter. The parameter VM name, parameter environment, parameter username, and then giving examples, inputs, outputs, and notes if you want to give. So what happens when I run that? So dot sourcing, advanced function help line. So now get help, create VM. I want to see full help. It shows me whatever I have written there. You see that the name, the synopsis, the syntax of the particular function, the description that I have given, the parameters description that I have given is there. Error log file, that position. See, the thing is in this particular function, I have mentioned that to switch. Okay, there are two switch. The switches are when you create a switch, depending on the switch parameter that you mentioned, the values may change, or it may take as it is. If I say hyphen error log, it will look for the error log, or hyphen say log file, it will go for the log file. Similarly, and then that's how the help is written in PowerShell scripts or, for example, functions and stuff, and the examples are also given. So if I say, instead of, I don't want to see the full help, I just want to see the examples. I only get the examples, right? And say I want to see full and then show window. It shows me in a window. The help comes under a window, right? So that's how you would write a help file. Just remember, at the beginning of a function or a script, I can write it in this function. I will have to enclose it in, if I'm writing multiple lines, enclose it, and then use the keywords. These are the keywords that you can get for help writing for help file, and then inside that you write your own thing. And whoever wants to use that, they can simply go ahead and use the help file, right? Question?
Well, I haven't got any question on the window as of now.
Okay, right. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is handling error. How you handle error in PowerShell. Typically, the same format is there in PowerShell or Python or Java or the JavaScript. It's typical try, catch, finally. In any function, say I want to, what I'm doing here in this function, at the beginning I'm writing write host, start testing, and then I'm trying something. I say get content C $bogus file. I know that there is no such file, and the error action I'm mentioning is stop. So when you get that error, it catches that error and says that caught an exception and throws a custom message. So you can throw an error which you can customize as per your requirements, right? And then finally we again clean up, and then you can just clean up things and continue with the way you were working. So let's say handling errors, okay, and then function error handling, right? So you can simply call error handling. Now see, it started at the beginning I said write start hosting, start testing, write host, start testing. It printed that out. It first went into try, saying reading a file, and then saying the thing that it wanted to do, it wanted to get a content, and it resulted in an error. So it came to catch, saying caught an exception, and then came to finally, saying continue to the end. But the error message that you are getting is my custom message. That's the error message that you are getting, right? So see, my custom message, the error that I wanted to throw. So depending on the script that you are writing, on the function that you are writing, and the work that you want to do, if you want to throw an error to an user, so you can customize it in this way, right? These are typically the portion that, okay, this is where, say for example, I want to write a script to get all the snapshot of the running virtual machines in my environment. So the first thing that I will do is connect VI server, right? But what happens if my connection is not right? It does not get connected, and I'm writing a lot more thing in due time. So the first thing that I will do, try connect VI server. And if that operation succeeds, then only to proceed. Otherwise, it will stop there and throw you an error message for saying that the connection to VI server was not complete, something like that. So that's how you will typically handle errors, trap errors, and you can write your custom error messages as well, right? So try catch finally combination, that's the thing that I had on variables, new object, the advanced function, help files, and error handling. That's the way you will do, right?
Shajil,
yeah.
Beside here. So if I write one example, I'm trying to connect VI server using, and that connection don't get go through. So should I use? So the catch is the next one is a catch. So in the catch, it will interpret that error and then it will show or how it works.
So whatever you try there, if the try is successful, then the catch is not there. It will not get executed. It will go ahead and do the other stuff. And finally is not something that you typically use. You typically use try and catch only, right? Finally there I have multiple things going on, and I wanted to finally clean up certain things, then probably I will use, because you remember that finally got executed. That continued to the end, that got executed here. After try, catch, and finally, typically what I would do, say, as I mentioned, that connect VI server, I will try connect VI server. If the connection is not right or something is not right, I can check my parameter there, whether the connection was successful or not, and I can raise a catch. So it will raise, catch will accept any error. If there is any error that is happening at the try, catch will execute, and it will show that custom error message. You can customize the error message as well, right? And it would execute. So
in try, you have to write like what expected message or something like that, like from the VI connect VI server. There's the output. So if the output matches only, I will understand that it is a connection established, right?
Right. So connection connect VI server, it gives you an output, the value that you get from the connect VI server. Based on that value, if there is some value that came, then you can check that. So typically, as I mentioned, that anything that you want to do do correctly, that you should put in try, and error message and something that you want to put it into catch. So try, catch, and if you want to clean up your environment, say before connect VI server you had some variables defined or something other you were doing, and you want that if my script exits abnormally in between, because this is an abnormal exit catch. You do some cleaning of the environment, you can put it in finally. So it would execute finally and then exit, right? Because the error action, see why I'm saying the error action that I mentioned here is stop. So if there is any error, it will stop there and exit from there. If I said silently continue, it can simply continue executing the rest of this portion as well. It's just that you know that this happens at the moment, right?
Yeah, and thank you.
So if there are no further questions, I will go into API, right? So API.
Still, I have one more query, like isn't that a different item, like I don't know if you can cover it with this session, like the menu, how to, like I want to action on multiple objects, and it shows a menu that and I can choose it from that menu. Is what can you function and sorry?
So typically you will build a GUI or front end for that. That I will not be able to
not GUI.
Here.
I want to do it in command line, like maybe it shows in command line, and I can input as a like 1, 2, 3, 4 or something in command also, and to do it, not to the GUI.
Okay, right. So from the menu items, select menu items. I will not cover that here. Probably I can point out some reference documents or something later on.
Okay, sure. Okay, no problem. Okay.
So API. So probably every one of us knows that API is application programming interface. Typically, in a simpler word, there are a lot of things that is mentioned here, but the thing is, in simpler words, what are APIs? Any piece of software that you write, any software that you see running in any computer, it has two things. The major task that it does is interaction, human interaction or the end user interaction. So typically you have GUI through which an end user or human interacts with the program. But what if I want to use that particular software into another software? So I want to call that software and use it in my own software. So that piece of software does not require an GUI. You can simply use the APIs. That's the interface to be consumed by the other software. So that's the difference between API and the GUI. Both of them are interfaces, one for end user, human user, another one is for software programs. Right? So vSphere APIs, for that matter, say these are APIs built for other VMware products or any other piece of software that you want to write. You want to interact with the product, you can do it through APIs. That is what it is in a simple term. Right? Okay, let's go to the example first. First of all, why would I go ahead with the APIs? I wanted to cover that. But there are two reasons behind using APIs. The question you can ask me that PowerShell or PowerCLI for that matter, by default it is so powerful, it gives you so many commandlets out of the box that you can do a lot of things. You can automate almost everything. I will not say almost, I will say everything in VMware environment, specifically the vSphere environment, vSphere vCenter server environment. Then why would you need this particular API access? So let's say get VM. I see that I get a list of the VMs. The first thing is it gives me, this particular commandlet gives me certain format, the name, power state, number, CPU, memory, GB. What if I want to get more information out of it, right? Next thing that I want to do is get view, say view type, get view, let's do this, get VM, a particular one. Let's get this particular VM. We have test web 10, say Docker 06. Okay, we have Docker 07. Oh, -07. Okay. Second. I think someone else is also working in my lab. Let me see, let me try to disconnect and connect again. Get VM. Okay. So if I say get VM Docker 07, I get it, right? Now, what if I say I just get this particular information that I was looking for? Now, what if I want to say like this? Get view. Just see the difference that I will get in the information. Docker 07. I see a lot more values that are there for me to explore, right? See, for example, I can see that overall status is green and config status is green. So it gives me all these status. So I can typically use get view to get the underlying information that is available at the API level. So the commandlet level, what it does, it abstracts a lot of information for you, but at the API level, you have a lot more information available to you. So get view type, say virtual machine. It has each and every virtual machine that's there in my environment, provides me this information that is available at the API layer. I can simply go ahead and dig into it to get that information. I can either say explore this with view type, virtual machine, or say these are the view types that is supported: the compute resource, the cluster, or the data center, data store, folder, or host system. So, for example, if I say instead of virtual machine, I want to see the ESXi host. So, host system, right? So it would show me the details of ESXi server that's there, what the information that I can get from that ESXi server, right? So these are the things that you can do with this, with get view. Now, see, the other way of doing it is for a particular virtual machine you want to access. So I understand that get view gives me the underlying API information for each and everything, but I want to explore the API information that I want to get for a particular virtual machine. So when I say get VM and then say Docker 07, I get this information, and then for this particular machine, I want to say get view. I get all these things. Let's store this information into a variable so that we don't have to type it again and again. Let's store this get view information in this particular variable named VM. Now, if I go into and check VM, I can see that all these informations are there. Right? I can see there's a runtime information, there's a summary information. Right? Let's check the summary information. So .vm .summary. It shows me VM and the runtime and the gate. Let's see the gate one. What it shows me. So it shows me that I'm running the version of the operating system that I'm running, the other 3x Linux 64 gates and stuff. Let's see, and its host name, its IP address, and all that information I'm getting, which were not available to me with simple get VM command. Right?
Sajal,
you understand that?
Sajal, I have a question on the chat window from Biswajit. He is asking how to get all view types available in PowerCLI.
All view types in the sense?
Sajal, I said like view type, I'm mentioning a virtual machine, host system. So I want to know what are the view types available, like which view type to use. Like with virtual machine, the view type is a virtual machine. So with VM and with the So these are the view types.
So these are the view types that are available there. So you can get the API information for a virtual machine or a resource pool, network, host system, folder, distributed virtual switch, data store, data center, and compute resource. These are the view types that are available.
So in PowerShell, is there any help that I know that these are the view type available? Like if I forget the exact name of the view type, so how to get that?
You can always see. The best thing is with documentation. VMware documentation is the best documentation that you get. So go to PowerCLI, get view VMware, and the commandlet reference.
Okay.
Right? And it tells you that go to the view type. Okay. The object, actually you will have to go to VI object, what different type of VI object that you have. It's all related to one of the other things. So let's go ahead and check the documents. Typically, you will go to the documentation VMware PowerCLI documentation, and you will get all that documentation, all that information. It is really extensive documentation that is there. So we go to the documentation and we get the reference, commandlet reference, and in that you will get all the things. Right?
Okay, fine, no problem. Okay.
It defines there. So coming back there, as I was saying, so $VM shows me the root level. So if I can go to each and every one of them and query that, you say for example capability. So I can go ahead and $VM dot capability. And the best part of using IAC, this is that it shows you that as you type, it shows you what's available. So it shows you this capability. These are the capabilities that is available with the virtual machine. Say snapshot operation supported, true. Multiple snapshots supported, true. Powered off snapshot supported. So these are the capabilities of the particular virtual machine. These information are typically not available with the commandlet. If you go to API level, dig deep, then you can get to say, okay, I have all these information, and if these information are available at your script level, that means you can do a lot more things, whatever actually you want to do through the script. So you can simply go ahead and access, say, VM capability and then secure boot supported or not. Secure boot supported. The value is false. So you can query if you have thousands of virtual machines and someone comes to you and tells you that, okay, how many machines are there for which secure boot is supported. You just write a single script, say get VM, and say, like for example, I will say get VM and get view. I'm getting the get view, and where say dollar, I'm accessing that particular object that comes, so dollar underscore gives you the object, and then say I can go to extension data, or I can what I was accessing here, capability. Let's see, capability. Actually, the way I will do it is different. I will show that in the next command probably. Secure boot supported equals to say false. Actually, the way we will do it is, I was just focusing that if I want to build this kind of queries, what I will do is use another easier method is extension data. The same thing that is available, say dollar VM is there. Say now I want to define this dollar VM equals to get VM docker 07, right? So now dollar VM is dead. Is a typical object that you get. Now there is something called extension data. Now note that if I go ahead and check the extension data, it gives me the same information that I was getting from getView. Right? So I can actually go ahead and query that extension data particular format to do whatever I was looking for. Let's try to see that whether it's get VM. Oh no, I will actually have to write a for each statement because I'm getting all the thing, or I can simply say docker -07 docker 07 get view where capability secure port. It is actually false. It's just returning something because I can do this way. Get VM, and then I can put it into braces and then extension data, and then take capabilities. So I get the same thing, and then secure. Whether secure boot is supported or not. I get the same value from extension data itself. So I don't need to go ahead and actually call out get view each and every time. There is one thing that you need to be aware of is this example. Let's take this example. The same example I'm running. Right? So I've got $VM, and let's see whether it's runtime. Let's see the runtime status once. device, I can see the device what power state is powered on. So if I go to runtime and then power state, it's powered on, right? So what if I try to do this? $VM is this. I want to start the VM. Say stop the VM. It's already powered on. So let's try to stop the VM. I get an error because when I do get view, it actually returns me an object which is underlying core object. So it's not your VI object. So that actually fails. If, for example, as I said, that the type that is, if I let's do this, $VM get type. You need to understand because I cannot directly utilize it to do some work. Because I'm trying to API for till now, I am accessing the API to get more information. What if I want to do some tasks at the API level? So can I do the task directly on top of that? I cannot. So type is VMware VM managed entity. Right now, I try to convert it. And just note that $VM still shows you that other information. And now I just convert it, get VI object by view. Already started. Okay. Get by view. See the output that you get is typically like when you call the commandlet, and if you type try to get type, it should tell me what type it is. Let's see whether it's get type. Yeah. So the type is now VMware VM automation VI core inventory item. That's a VI object. And I can do a task on a VI object. I cannot do a task on an element which is typically managed entity. That's the low-level API that I get. I cannot do tasks. I can get the information in that format, but I cannot do certain other. I can use that particular object to run some other commandlet. So now, if I start to start VM, the VM is already started. Let's try to stop it. So I'm converting, I'm getting the $VM, that particular variable, API object, and now I have converted it and then stop. It's asking whether you have to stop it or not. So if I say yes, it will actually go ahead and power off this particular virtual machine. This is Docker 07, it's powered off. And just notice one portion. Typically when you power off, the API action should be much faster than the normal operations that you would do. And if I want to start this VM, again, say I stopped it, now I want to start it. It will just tell me what the percentage and it started. It started. See the quickness through which when I do the same task from API, it's that quick. So first of all, why I would use API is it gives me lot more information, lot more information that I get normally through commandlet. That's how and why I would use API. And the method. See, I just wanted to say another thing. Let's see that method that is available. The tasks that I can methods are the functions or the work that you can do on top of an object. So any object.
Hello, Sajal?
Hello? No, one over to here. Yeah, Sajal.
I can't hear.
Yeah, I think you have to write. Hello? You have to write.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Is it okay now? Should I continue?
Sajal, we lost the audio for
a while, yes.
Yes, I can hear now.
Oh,
Yeah.
Till what time I was audible?
So the last one, when you powered on the machine and
Okay. So powered on and off. So what I was saying that doing it through API is pretty quick. As you could see, I just gave the command and it ran that. So the first reason that I would use APIs in my PowerShell script is, or PowerCLI script is, it gives me a lot more information, a lot more flexibility. That in no other way I will get. I mean, from UI you get certain things. You don't get to see many things. And from commandlet, using a typical commandlet also don't give you all that option. But when you go ahead and go into API, as I was showing, that you go into API, you see a lot more information from the scripting level or the command line level. So that is one reason of using it. The second thing is, look at the task. Say, for example, I'm seeing the same virtual machine and I'm getting all the members. I was saying that for any object, there are two things that there. One is methods and one is property. Property are the fixed values that the fixed values. Method are the things that you can do on that object. So here I'm getting the members and then search by methods. You see all these tasks that you can do. Say answer VM. So sometimes what happens, you move a virtual machine from here and there, it asks you, okay, did you do that? Whether I should go ahead and do this? You get this clone VM task, create snapshot, destroy, extract of environment. All these methods are available. Whatever method that you see here, you can actually call out that method and do that task on top of that particular API or the particular object. Right, so these are far more information that is available there from GUI or the normal commandlet. That is the reason, one reason you will use the APIs. One point to note, when I say $VM, so let's just go back to that particular example. Yes. Okay, this is what I'm just storing the information in the $VM. So $VM, say now summary, runtime, and then powered state. It says powered on, right? Now I go back and power off this virtual machine from here, say power off. And I can see that this virtual machine is powered off, right? But if I go ahead and say power state, it still shows me powered on. So you remember you note the implication. So at the beginning of a script, you get the APIs for the particular object using say get view, and at the end of the script or somewhere in the middle, you use the APIs and destroy the state. And the state is not consistent. It's not synced with your backend data. It may be possible that at the backend that data state got changed, and you will not know that. So the actions that you will do may result in error. So what you should do is this: take that particular variable, and there is something called update view data. To update the data, it goes ahead and syncs the data from backend. So now if I go ahead and check the power state, it shows me powered off. This is very important while working with APIs. Before actually you want to do any task on the particular element using the APIs, you should go ahead and actually use update view data so that it would show you the exact state of that particular machine. Now let me just go ahead and power on. This VM is powered on. Again, if I see the power state, it shows me powered off. So to get the state, I can simply update the data, and now it says power state is powered on. It's just one important aspect that you need to remember, that while you do that, you have to do it this way. Okay? The other way of doing it. Okay. While we were seeing that there are so many methods that I can call upon. So let's just do this. Let's call upon one method from the API that's available on this particular object, say suspend VM task. So overload the definition. We will have to configure it this way. Now we'll just cover it short. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, for that I will need more information. So I will disconnect. The other reason why would use APIs, the disconnect is API server. I will disconnect and I connect to another system where we have more number of virtual machines, so that we can actually I will just copy paste. So I'm connecting to another within the server here. And I want to run two commands. The output should be same, but I want to measure the commands. I just want to get the VM, all the VMs that has snapshots. The typical first way I'm doing is get VM, get snapshot, the commandlet. I'm getting all the VMs and then I'm getting the snapshots out of the VM and select name. It runs for 2 seconds, 348 milliseconds. Right? Now let's try to do the same task from API with get view, and let's say how much time it takes. 331 millisecond only. That's the difference. So when you write a script and when you use the APIs, it would run much faster than using the commandlets. Because see, commandlets are also using the same APIs, but what they are doing on top of that, they are formatting the data, giving you nice output and that stuff. So two things. First thing is commandlets abstract certain data for you, and it takes certain more time to get that information and then put in a nicely outputted format. So commandlet is fine, but if you really want to do some serious scripting or some script, say for example, there are 1,000 hosts. Like last night I had a query in the community, PowerCLI community. A person was asking that I have 1,000 hosts and I have VMs running on that. I want to get certain information on top of that. What is the quickest way of getting it? So obviously get view, if you run the get VM host on 1,000 hosts, it is going to take considerable time. Get view will be much shorter than that. These are the two reasons why you would know why you would use this. Right? The next example that I come back to is like, now I got the information. Exploding API is very easy. I can go ahead and do this, say $VM and then extension data. So extension data will give me all that information, but what about I want to do some task on that? How do I do that? Doing a task on a particular entity is a bit more tricky. Not everyone does that. It's simpler, but it's a bit more tricky. Oh, I'm connected. So let me just disconnect before I go ahead. I will have to disconnect from this server because this server is someone else's server. It's not my server, but it has a lot more information. That's why I wanted to connect to it and to this task. So I will disconnect and then connect via server again, but this time to my server. Okay. Now, say I just wanted to showcase this NSX cluster that I have. can see that HA, high availability, is disabled here. That is turned off. So what if I want to enable the high availability there? Now, before I go ahead and do it, see, we want to see $cluster equals to get cluster nsx-cluster and get view. So you get $cluster. Now, one way of doing it is going to VMware documentation. You go ahead, it's really extensive documentation that's out there. You can search for all the managed objects like cluster compute resource. You go there and try to find out what are the things that you can do. Like, for example, cluster compute resource. I go there and I see action history, configuration. So if obviously I want to do some configuration on it, so I will go ahead and click on cluster config info. And see, this is a data object. It has a dash config, like cluster-wide configuration of the vSphere HA service. This is a type of cluster dash config info. So I will go there, and I can see that under that there is one enabled option which flagged to indicate whether or not vSphere HA feature is enabled or not. So that's how I will explore the APIs, right? That if I want to find out, I will just simply go ahead and check the managed object first. That what the objects that I have in my environment. It's actually pretty simple if you look into it. See, the managed object type, say I know it's cluster compute. If you want to see something on the data store side, it would come under D. So you go to data store. And under that data store, what thing that you want to do? If you want to look for the capabilities, you want to do something about the capabilities, go ahead and click on the data store capability. It will take you to further information that yes, I have whether it's recent parts supported or not, speed supported, the raw disk mapping supported or not. All these information that I can get, but getting these information is pretty easy if you ask me. The other thing that I will have to do is, as I was saying, cluster compute resource. Right now, I want to get you into HA. I want to enable. So I see under cluster compute resource, and that I have that something called configuration, and under that dash config info. So I need to build an object of type dash config info. Right? So the object type is vim cluster dash config info. So vim, now the interesting part is, I will have to define one object of cluster dash config info, and for that I know that there will be a method called, property called enabled. So if I set that value to true or false, it will do the task for me. So that's how the chaining happens. So first I will define one new object of cluster dash config info, and then enabled on it. But what is the type? Type is vim cluster dash config info. Remember, whatever type you get, you just start with VMware. So it will be VMware.vim .cluster.dash config info. So let's just exactly do that. So we got cluster, and the other way, what I wanted to show is I got this get view, and I get to see the configuration. So if I say $cluster and the configuration type is, let me see, just a second. The other easier way of doing it, it's VMware vim cluster config info. You see this? I don't need to go ahead and check in the documentation. I just go here, get view, query configuration, which is of type VMware vim cluster config info. So I say configuration. Now I see that under that I have dash config, which is of type VMware vim cluster dash config info. Which is I'm going through the same stuff, but instead of going into the web page and going through a lot of stuff, I'm just simply getting it here. So a configuration and dash config. Now, if I go to dash config, I can see whether enabled was true or false. So I see that enabled is false. So if I somehow make this enabled to true, that means it should change it for me, right? So let's go ahead. I already have cluster. Then now, if I say dash config, directly dash config, and then enabled false, right? First thing that I'm going to build a specification. That object specification that I will build. The first thing that I'm building is the VMware Vim cluster config specification. Next thing I'm doing, the cluster config specification. You remember that it started with cluster config specification. Let's go back. When I say configuration is VMware Vim cluster config info. So I need to config info. I need to build a specification for that. The details of the specification I can simply go ahead and search into the API references. I can actually get that cluster config info, right? And I can get cluster config info X. So when I get that information, I get that info in the format. When I put that or specification X, config spec X, this is a specification which I need to maintain. These are the things that's there. The first object that I'm going to build is this object. So I build that specification of cluster config X, and underneath that I know that there's a dash config. So I need to build another object which has this property. So first I will go ahead and build this configuration space X. Okay, I already built that, and then dash config. Under that there is another property dash config, and that object, it's just nested objects that I'm building. It's dash config info, right? And in that dash config info, in that particular object, I'm setting this as true, right? I got it. Now I got my specification ready. I need to now go ahead and reconfigure that. So what I'm doing, there is a method called reconfigure compute resource task. That's the task, that's the method that is there. I can get that detail as well from the documentation. Task. So the other way that you can explore this is manage object type, data object type, all methods, all properties. We go to methods and then say R, under R you would find all that reconfiguration tasks. So whatever tasks that is there, all the methods that are defined there. So you know that reconfigure, I'm looking for something which is reconfiguring compute resource, right? So I can go to reconfigure and search compute resource task. And I see that this is the specification. To call that method, I need to pass it two things. One is specification, and second thing is modify, which is a boolean. Is it true or false? So I want to modify or not. So true or false. So I need to, when I want to call this method, I want to pass it two things. First thing is the specification. So you all, and what specification text, you can actually click on that and again go back to the same place, the specification that you have already built. So what we are doing here, I am calling out that particular method. First thing I am giving the specification, and then second thing I am saying that yes is reconfigure. So it's ran this task. Now let's see what's the value of dash config now. It says, oh, I didn't update it. So I just need to update. See, I didn't update it. So it shows me that it's not done. But from here I can see that it's turned on. So I just will update view data and dash config. It's true. So that is how actually you build. Getting the information is pretty easy, straightforward. And now when you want to do some tasks, you just actually tinker here and there. You will have to go that what specification that you need to mention, what method that you are going to call. But once you get that, it's pretty easy, straightforward, and it will be really, really fast. That is the reason we would use API, and that's how you will use API. That is how you will use the APIs that therefore the sphere level. It's mentioned everything here. So you have a list of managed object type, data object type, false type, all types, or methods, properties, enumerations, everything. They have each and every details, and that's how it's tied on which object you want to do this, what are the methods that are available with that particular object. You can directly find this type and everything from the command line here itself, or you can go ahead and explore there. So that is what API is all about. Any questions?
No question on the chat window so far.
Yeah, actually API feature is cool, but yes, we have to explore it so that we can ask queries there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So the thing is, I can show you how to explore the APIs, how you can do certain things, but the rest of the things you will have to explore yourself. That's how you would know. So I can show you the way, the path, right?
Yeah,
that would be nice. Thank you.
So, Sajal, when I type in the get view, actually I'm calling the API, right?
Yeah, I'm getting the underlying API information.
Okay. See, if you don't use that get view, it's actually commandlet. It's not API.
It's a commandlet. The commandlet underlying is using the API. It's again querying, but it's modified. It is abstracting the information. And the other thing is, instead of using get view, you can get the same information for that commandlet itself. Like for example, get VMware, right? Docker say 07. It's a typical commandlet, right? But what is returned, it's a link to that information. It does not show you that information, but it gives you a link to that information which you can get from extension data.
Okay.
So when it shows you the same thing.
Okay.
So you go to extension data, and then you can actually get that entire information. Whatever you are getting from GetView, you can get it from here as well.
Okay. But for large number of queries and machine if running it, it's better to get view. Yeah. Okay.
Should I continue?
Yes, please.
I think I have overshot my time, but we started 15 minutes late, so I will stretch it by 15 more minutes. I wanted to talk about RESTful APIs because as of now, as of VMware 6.5, everything moved to REST APIs. The other one good thing that I wanted to showcase is REST APIs documentation. It's pretty extensive in VMware. Say you just go ahead, go to code.vmware.com, and you get to see search by vCenter. You get all the information that's there. You can actually try it out as well in the REST API format. Get, put, or what you can do, you can simply type your vCenter server name. It has embedded browse REST API, which where is the big click on that. It has API Explorer. It will give you all the API details. Like for example, cluster level, I want to list the operation that is available that I can see to get operations are there. I want to expand the operations. It says that if I do a get, what is the information that I'm going to get, right? And what is the status message as well. And you want to try it out, you can try it out as well. That is the beauty of this API Explorer that is there. Out of the box you get this. In 6.5 it's there. Similar thing you get for NSX, for VRA as well. Like VRA.lab.local, it's my VRA server. I can get the details of that particular say get operations, show, hide, what are the operations that I can do. Specifically, VRA, vRealize automation, it's all about API, REST APIs. So I can see that I have all these get, post, put operations that's available for this particular entity, the advanced designer service. And you have so many things that's going on. The catalog service, I want to see what's there in the catalog service. It's just fetching the information. It's a Swagger UI that's there. So under catalog, it explains the key concepts and what's the base URI. I'll just explain what is URI and stuff. Let me just cover that first, and then I will come back. So REST APIs or representational state transfer is an architecture style. It's not HTTP based, but most of the cases it's implemented using HTTP or HTTPS. right? It's a web service API. It is in two formats. The resource, it has resource, and then URL, or we say URI, uniform resource identifier. So as shared, this is my base API. Resource URI is the API/consumer, and under that catalog items is /catalog items, and we give a particular catalog item that is your particular resource. But the URI that is your uniform resource identifier. You will have to mention that. So you always give it in a HTTP or HTTPS format, and the return that you get, typically the operations that you do is through the format, like create. Create, read, update, delete. This format. The form HTTP verb that we use is post, get, put, delete. Most of the times we do get, post, get to get the information, post to post the information, put to update, and delete to delete. The returns are say 200. Success, different formats, 301, 401, 404, it's like user error, 500 something is server error, server side error, 400 is something user side error, 300 is redirect, 200 series is success. So based on that, you define whether the operation that you are doing, the return value would tell you that whether it was success or not. And there are other tasks like options, head, trace, connect, etc. as well. While we work with RESTful APIs, one thing is important, that format in which it accepts the data and sends the data back. So it's typically, it can be XML or JSON. JSON is much easier to work with because JavaScript or PowerShell has out-of-the-box JSON handling capabilities. So I'll just first showcase showcase how you can actually take and create a JSON format in PowerShell. So for example, this is my dictionary. This is a hash table that I have created. So I have 3 keys: username, password, tenant. I'm storing it in info. So this is a typical hash table, right? So get type, if I say it's a get type, I get that this is a system object. And $info shows me the info in that format. Now, there is inbuilt commandlet available in PowerShell, which is convert to JSON and convert from JSON. So I'm converting to JSON. Now, if I type it, it's the typical JSON format that I get. So working with REST APIs becomes very easy, because if I want to put something in JSON, I can build the JSON on the fly, on the runtime, and purge the data back as well. So now JSON, if you just, let's try to see what type it is. It's also a system object, but it's a different type of object, right? I can get the data back from JSON to normal format, the object JSON. I got my data back in the same format, the earlier format, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I will handle JSON here. Now, in typical REST API calls, as I was showing, if you have get, post, put, and the format that you do is you can use curl as well, but this is a typical format. Is curl, get, give a header and then a body. So you mention the method and then mention the URI, or mention the header, and then you need to send a body. Header is something which you will say what is the application type that you will accept, what is the content type that you will accept, or what you are expecting, right? That's how you will form a query. And for PowerShell, you have inbuilt commandlet, I will say, invoked REST method. You can utilize that commandlet to invoke a REST query to get, put anything to a REST server, which a server or any endpoint, I will say, any endpoint which supports a REST method. So right now, let's do this. I'm building a header. So first I'm defining a header. I will have to build that header of new object, which is system collection generic dictionary. It's a dictionary format, hash table, which will have string and string value, right? I'm saying, since it's a dictionary, I can add and saying the first value is accept application JSON. JSON type application I will accept, and the second header entity is content type. I'm mentioning that, and then what I'm doing is I'm building the body. So the body of the query that I'm building is this, and then I will convert it into JSON format because I will have to put it in the JSON format, right? Now, VRA, the way it works, though at the UI level you give your ID password, at the backend it gets a token and it works with the token. Each and every task that you do, you get some information, put some information, post some information, you need to pass that token. Each and every time it does not authenticate with the username password. It uses the token for a certain time and then validates that. Right? So first I want to do anything, I'll have to get that token. I will have to get that token first from VRA server. So let's first build that, get that token. What I'm doing, I'm invoking REST method. I'm mentioning the method is post, URI is VRA identity API token. Now, tell me that how do I know this? For that, you will have to explore the APIs. Say, for example, API tokens. Oh, it will send me an error, sorry. I'm exploring the docs. I will have to check the identity. Go to identity, and under identity, the first thing that you will get is like how you get the identities and stuff. You can explore that to get the token, or the better way of doing it is say realize automation documentation. Best place. Believe me, I have seen other documentations as well. Say VMware documents are really exhaustive and really good documentations are available. So the information center and the API documentation, how you will go ahead, it's actually given there with examples. Developer resources, you go to developer resources, programming guide, REST API authentication. The first thing that it actually tells you is REST API authentication. What are the things that you will do, and go ahead and how you can go ahead and validate and where a token request a token, how you can actually request a token, what are the things that you will do. It gives you exhaustive documentation, and then use cases, it gives you sample use cases as well. Create a tenant, request a machine, and then gives you the REST API reference for each and everything. So just go ahead and explore the documentation and do it in a way. The thing is, first thing, but anything that you want to do, first you will have to get a token. So I got a token here, right? I use that token to further make my query. So again, I will go ahead and say build a header. And here I want to add headers. I don't have to pass content type here, but still, let's see whether it returns me that error message or not. Okay. Here I am not sending any body because I already have the token in the header. So I'm in the header itself sending the token. Okay. So I got the what I'm getting here. I'm getting the directories. Right, invoke REST method. I'm getting the URI method that I'm passing is get. The URI is HTTPS, my VRA server, identity tenants, vSphere, and the directories. So I can see that this is the format that I got is JSON format. So if I just try to convert that in my way, and say convert from JSON, let's do this, $JSON and convert from JSON. Okay. I will have to give convert from JSON and JSON. Some format problem, but anyway, what I wanted to showcase is type identity store. It shows me that my domain is lab.local. The name of that domain is test. The description, alias, type AD, username DN is administrator, users, and stuff. It shows me all that information for me, right? So I can further query it. JSON content. I get the content like this. I can further get the information, the content, and then say I want to get the subdomain or subdomain. Let's get it. Username DN. Username DN. That's how I would get that information. So the response that I get, I need to know that what exact format that is giving, and I explore that to get that information. Similarly, for example, let's build out our thing again, and we are a token, and then we will try to invoke REST method on the catalog items. Content catalog items. What are the catalog items that they are in my environment? So I see all these catalog items are there, right? I have so many catalog items. Let's just try to say status, last update, organization, where it's there. It shows me all that information of my catalog items that are there. The ID of that catalog item, what is the label of that. So I can actually utilize, and I can build my further queries down to query a virtual machine. That is how I will build a REST query, and I will post a query, get the information based on that information. For example, ID. If I want to get that information, I will want to query that information with this ID, and then I will get that done. This is how we will do it. For NSX, I just wanted to showcase how you would work with REST APIs in NSX. For example, the similar way I can go ahead and do it in REST, VRA or vSphere for that matter. I can query the REST APIs. One interesting thing that I wanted to showcase, for example, this vCenter server, I have NSX integrated. I have a load balancer configured into it. Let me go back there. Load balancer ID is age 16. Right? So I wanted to query that particular load balancer, and I wanted to get its statistics. So here I'm just using a REST API client. I can do the same things with my PowerShell as well. Here it shows me the details of the load balancer, that okay, this is the pool 1, there is one member with this IP, what is this current session, how many bytes in, how many bytes out, HTTP request rate, what's the rate limit, all that information, the virtual server, what's the virtual IP that there, what's the HTTP request total that came in, came out, all that information is available through REST. So you just query that, get that information, build your query again, JSON query, put that back to the server, and that's how you go ahead and utilize the REST APIs. You can do the same thing with PowerShell or PowerCLI, right? And that concludes my session. As mentioned in the last session as well, further reading, go ahead, go check the communities, The examples are there. Follow Alan Renoff, Lucky. I mean, they are amazing guys. Follow this, and if you have any further queries, do let me know. And I regularly blog at http://vtechguru.com. If you have time, you can go ahead and read there. You can post your comments there as well. So that's the session that I had, second session that I had for PowerShell. I don't have any questions?
Hi Sajal, as of now we have to go through this all these advanced things once again before I put any question here. So thanks for the topic. Actually, these topics will help us to at least get some idea how to use them. But for actual uses, we have to go through the documentation and